week tonight. I am Zane Zen Zen Nelson, and joining me after star walking across Summoner's Rift, now moving over to the caster desk, it's RLS Escape. How's it going?
Oh, it's kind of like a distant state of euphoria, you know? Like it's just off in the wings there. It's like it was good. Now you're just kind of relaxed and chill. You feel cleansed. But yeah, no, it's very, very good. I'm very happy to be here commentating with you. I don't think I've gotten the chance to do this before, so this is kind of cool. Get to be up here with Zen Zen. But yeah, we have the opportunity to cast what could be a really strong game. We've got two middle of the field teams in Art of War Esports and Team Washed. Wash is finally back to their regular lineup. I would say that because Pure Llama's back, but we've got Wednesday playing support today.
Yeah, so the last time that these two teams played, there were also some substitutions going on. So I'm very excited to see what this particular roster looks like for these two teams. Particularly also because we've seen so much growth over the course of this league, right?
Yeah.
Guilty's Zareth, I mean, has just been meta defining. I would argue in both heroic and in mythic has looked incredible on that character, and I'm excited
Oh.
to see what Team Wash has prepared for. And look at that.
Yeah, they just go ahead and do it. That is a classic. Erebus loves the Kog'Maw. I also want to notice that we got an M in there instead of a. I don't think that's supposed to be there. It doesn't matter too much. That's one of his favorite picks. He loves playing that. Loves going into those hyperscalers in the bot lane. It looks like a mid on that ADC role is going to try and take that away with Illusion, which has fallen out of favor lately due to patches. So I'm interested to see if that's what they're going to lock in, if that's what they're going to pair with it. Nocturne, though, being picked up first. Dominant champion, able to do a lot in team fighting, especially at like lower levels where people are not as good as tracking people because Nocturne ulti makes comms really difficult. And that's kind of a level in only in coordinated play that he gets a buff to his ultimate almost because he gets to disable a little bit more. Nami picked up with that Lucian. I'm interested to see how that one plays this patch, and Swain also locked in for Pure Llama.
Yeah, Art of War Esports has already clearly defined what they want to do, and they want to charge forward. They have this
Go.
incredible Lucian Nami lane that is so infamous for being lane dominant, and then you pair that with the Lucian, you're trying to charge and dive this Kog'Maw. And Team Washed, similarly, has already established a theme with their team. They've got the Swain locked in for Pure Llama, a champion that we have seen so much success in both Heroic and Mythic League. Just provides so much space for your team, which is exactly what Erebus is going to want on the Kog'Maw. And looking at that, bans already ticking away quite quickly. Banning away the Silas and the Victor, incredibly smart to try and limit the space that Art of War
Ooh.
could buy back. And Jarvan picked up for the side of Team Washed.
Okay, yeah, okay. So first of all, the Xerath ban being a miss here seems a little bit strange here from Wash, but Jarvan kind of goes against what their comp wants to do. They're looking to play a late game. They want something to stand in front of Kog'Maw, and it's not that Jarvan's bad at that, but he's playing dive with a Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw can't do that. So he's going to be diving into the dive composition that Art 4 Esports was putting together, but now we're looking at an Aatrox, which can kind of play side lanes, kind of play middle of the fight, and Guilty on that patented Xerath, which is so good, but it makes the composition work a little bit differently. And even then with Malphite, even more dive for Wash. It almost feels like their composition is like two-faced, and they weren't really sure which side to commit to, but they have a lot of forward available to try and get on top of that Xerath and try and disrupt the Lucian, but not many tools to actually protect that Kog'Maw. So they have a lot of confidence in Wednesday and Erebus to just be able to survive these fights from the backline.
Yeah, I will say, to Team Wash credit, one thing that I do like that their composition brings together is that the combination of Malphite and Jarvan does make the Swain feel more empowered, right?
Yeah.
Swain is a character who like gets a lot of power from being able to stick to enemies, and now he's got two buddies to sort of help him continue to do that. I will also say that looking at these two compositions, if Team Washed happens to get a little bit ahead, if they're able to push the tempo of this game and like start these fights aggressively, one of the things that's incredibly hard to stop in a Juggernaut composition is when that Kog'Maw feels unable to walk forward. You know, it's
Yeah.
unusual that AD carries get that space. They're usually playing they're playing a horror anime, like they're trying to dodge and duck and dive and like just barely live fights. But when you have like a powerful frontline that's like pushing you forward and you get to attack on those targets without being targeted yourself, you're gonna have huge success.
Yeah, no, and same can be said really for what Art of War has put together, because it to me is kind of a game of two dive comps, right? As much as Xerath doesn't really follow that, and as much as Kog'Maw doesn't really cover that, both teams have a lot of initiation and not too much way of shutting the other team down. So obviously intermittent stuff with like the Malphite or with the Aatrox and try and blocking some damage, like kind of. But there's no Janna, there's no Thresh, there's no Azir to try and like break up these fights and give yourself some more space. So I think what you're saying about Wash getting ahead early is completely true. But I think if either team slips up in the early game, that could be a snowball that starts rolling way too fast for either of these teams to deal with because there's so much engage on both sides and no way to protect any of the actual damage sources. So I think early laning is going to be something to really look at, especially in that top lane, because if that Malphite is able to do what we've seen Malphite do, I want to say 6 or 7 times so far this season, and just stand in front of that Aatrox and deny anything from happening there, that's going to be a really nice point for Wash to just kind of comfortably ease them into the mid game.
Yeah, I'm very excited to take a particularly close look at this top side because I think that with Total Trash on the Nocturne, a character that can lead to disruptive tactics, but is also so good at supporting side lane play. I think if Trolls You and Total Trash are able to coordinate and perhaps get an edge over PJ Salt, this composition that's been drafted for the side of
Boo.
Wash really doesn't want a side lane. If they can avoid it, they would prefer just to fight all the time. So if you can get that tiny little bit of an edge in a side lane, AWE could unlock an additional potential strategy to take moving forward.
Total Trash is making no friends here in this mid lane. It's just X is just trying to dance and be there on the Jarvan. Meanwhile, there's these Dust Claws coming out from the Nocturne, just making him feel sad. Oh, not respecting the early game, but it is an early game that you're gonna have to respect coming at X because that Jarvan is gonna be all over the place in this early stages, and we're gonna have to watch him for the first couple minutes because very, very immobile in the mid lane. Definitely capable of creating pressure in the bot lane. Top lane, maybe not so much. I'm expecting him to start up there. No, he's going to start on his bot side. That's interesting. Could kind of stunt his clear, or it could really like say like, hey, I'm definitely going mid, come 245 or so.
Yeah, I think upon further review, I like that both teams are starting bot side, just because with a Kog'Maw Lulu lane, you don't expect to have like much forward pressure there, right? It's very difficult to like have a Lulu help assist like the setting up of a gank. There's no like Morgana binding or
Yeah.
other go button there, and also for the side of AWE, they're just so strong in this early game. I say that as they take a losing trade, but they should be able to, with the powerhouse, be able to take a huge advantage here, particularly around level 2.
Yeah, and I mean, something that you have to really pay attention to in that bot lane is why they're falling behind the way that they did. You need to make sure, hey, does Kog'Maw have W on cooldown? Yes, no, we can't fight him. No, he doesn't. Okay, we can try and do stuff. And that's going to be something that they're going to have to pressure out. I'm sure that's something that a mid will start to pick up on. Obviously, a mid is not their resident ADC player. I'm not sure where Letters is, but I think it's something to do with not being able to make earlier blocks. But I'm not totally sure about that. But that is something that AWE has to play around. It's interesting that they've decided to put a mid on the Lucian, especially since the nerfs on that. And right now, you think about Lucian Nami historically, you expect to see some sort of a lead really starting to form even this early in the game because of how much aggression that pick can normally create. And there it is, trying to create something onto Erebus. There's so much damage, but something that could have been nearly fatal before is just really taking a hit from Nami not being able to proc that electrocute.
Yeah, is going for the Airy instead, which I think scales better,
Yeah.
into the game if you're able to like get out of laning phase. So it's not a total loss. Meanwhile,
Good trade.
fantastic combo from Pure Llama. Very happy to take that one. But this is the moment of truth here. Both junglers have pathed fully up into this top side, and as I mentioned, Trolling You is a character that you want to get ahead early. I have to wait to see what this fight is going to be if both teams are going to commit to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the Jarvan's looking around Crab right now. He knows that the Jarvan's up there had that sneaky little ward in the Tri-Brush, so it's going to get him out of there nice and safe, and Pilsing is going to be quite happy with that. More trades in the mid lane. Pure Llama is looking very good, obviously. Hiatus isn't exactly the right word. He's just completely MIA from the mid lane for a last little bit on vacation. But since his return, I think we saw him already play a little bit in Mythic. And looked really strong there, and he's coming back here. And Guilty has been a force to be reckoned with in both leagues so far. As hold on, big trade in the top lane, Trolling You trying to create something out of PJ Salt at the moment, but Malphite's very good standing in the face of that. Total Trash might try to put the scales the other direction, though, as they're going to chase down on this Malphite. Just going to happily walk out of there with the Q speed, and that is safety for the big mountain.
Yeah, Malphite, of course, one of those characters that can really struggle with mana in the early stages of the game. You can see that despite him trading like pretty favorably up until this point, really has to make full use of those biscuits in order to get anything done. Is going to be totally all right though in this instance, and looks like he has just enough to sustain to survive. Although it's another really great combo. Trolls You has been looking really good on this Aatrox throughout the season.
Yeah, and Aatrox making Malphites feel uncomfortable is not a trend that we've seen so far. He's holding great flash there to Erebus, but he's already down to 200 HP. Meanwhile, Godix Anime's in the mid lane, Guilty, able to walk out of there without burning his flash. No, he greets it for too long, and Pure Llama is going to pick up the first blood.
Yeah, what a huge win. Godix Anime really wants to do this. Oh my goodness.
Good flash.
Whew. Godix Enemy really wants to have that aggressive play. You know, Jarvan is a character that can really show up anywhere and is so versatile in the early levels. I appreciate that he went straight to that mid lane, you know, to try and punish the immobile mage. If you can get Guilty behind, that poke damage suddenly becomes less and less of a threat. So really great choice to go there.
Yeah, I need to see AWE move towards Dragon right now or move towards this bot lane because everything has to be committed to protect the Kog'Maw right now. There's a huge wave getting pushed in. I don't think a mid can actually find the kill here too safely, but they can start to make plays around Dragon. They have Guilty on the map, and right now it's going to be X moving into this bot lane first. There's a 3v2 that they're trying to set up. Going to happily walk out of that one, AWE. Not too scared of this Jarvan for the moment. Now, finally, AWE is going to try and make the rotation down. That's X going to have to walk out of there, and they're going to try and establish some Dragon control, but a little bit of tardiness is not going to give them the advantage they could have had there.
Yeah, they're going to be all right. I'm pretty happy to sort of deny.
Oh, they're going to go for it anyway.
And yeah, they do have the priority in the mid lane, so I think that this is a wise decision.
Yeah.
Godix Anime can absolutely contest this if he wants to, but it looks like he's happy to just go ahead and farm up the camps. And allow Erebus the reset, because that's the thing. At this point, Kog'Maw is not at the position of strength that you want him to be in order to take like an early fight like this. So I actually really like that Nocturne, the team that scales worse, is being more proactive about taking these objectives.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep yourself secure going into the later stages, really going into the mid game, giving yourself an advantage like that. Because if you can get yourself onto Soul Point, let's say, you know, they can continue this pace and get like a 15-16 minute Soul Point, they can start to use that to pressure Baron, and Baron is going to be a lot more valuable for AWE because they want to end this game earlier. Obviously, Guilty is fantastic on the Xerath for the later stages. We know how disgusting Aatrox gets, but generally the composition for Wash and the playstyle for Wash historically has been get to the late game, let Erebus do his thing, let's just stand in front of him, let him carry. And if they can start to use the Soul Point to kind of control where Wash has to be and not give them the convenience of getting to use their prio how they want to, they can start to create some problems. Meanwhile, Guilty without this flash in the mid lane is going to get caught out. There's a Malphite here as well, and down goes the Xerath. Well executed gank there from Wash.
What a beautiful sequence of events. Credit to Pure Llama for really setting that up. I love the use of the Swain W. You know, you think that it doesn't provide that much of a threat, but you force your opponent to move, you restrict their options, makes it very easy to land the never move and secure the kill. And that's going to be another win, but look here.
Yeah, Erebus is trying to go aggressive right there. There's the exhaust going down on the Lucian, trying to deny that, but there's already two more people of Wash coming down into this bot lane. Nocturne's not there to answer, so Pure Llama's going to get on top of a Riri, fails the flash into the wall, and this is going to be a massacre in the bot side. Erebus is going to live through it as well, and that is two more kills going down on that bot lane, and now the Kog'Maw is starting to scale up, and Swain's looking terrifying.
Yeah, Pure Llama, two back-to-back huge plays, secures a massive lead for him and his team. That's going to be about 2,000 gold, plus a free reset for a Kog'Maw who, you know, this is supposed to be Kog'Maw's point of weakness. He's supposed to struggle in this lane, and you've just completely unlocked him past, like, the scariest part. So Wash looking incredibly good in this early game.
Yeah, this is all they could really ask for right now is just stay consistent, stay strong, and, you know, really this is supposed to be, like you say, a point of holding on for the entirety of the composition for Wash, but X has been everywhere, and I was kind of questioning this Jarvan pickup as to, hey, why are we trying to go for something that's early game pressure? Why are we trying to go for something that is more dive-oriented? But what it's done is it's created this tie-over for Wash, and as a result, instead of sitting on kind of what you'd expect, which is Dragon deficit, Herald deficit, a bit of a gold down, they're up almost like a full 1,000 gold, a little bit more than that right now. They're sitting on a lot of CS in that mid lane. They're not too far behind in their solo or in their side lanes. So it's generally positive across the board for them, and I want to give huge props to X for just being everywhere and creating all these windows.
Yeah, absolutely. Trolls You continuing to lay down the hurt. Actually looks favorable in there, but look at this Godex anime.
Yeah, here we go again. Has to be. There's the engage from the Jarvan. Not in range for the ulti right now. There's a little bit of trade going on the top side. I'm sure PJ's going to be happy to walk out of here. No trouble on either side of the map just there.
I can't believe Godex anime had access to the flash. I thought for sure that there was going to be bloodshed in that bot side, but with that reveal, this does give AWE an opportunity to make something happen. Once again, Total Trash making full use of the knowledge provided. Gonna go ahead and pick up that Rift Herald. Again, getting these objectives early, particularly when you're behind, is really helpful.
Yeah, no, and that's a comfortable move for them right there. It's going to help even out the gold a little bit. It's going to let them give some pressure to a part of the map. Meanwhile, trading the bot lane, this is not favorable for you right now. Kog'Maw is sitting on that W active, and a mid paying the price for it. There are a lot of damage falling onto that Lucian, but they're going to be able to survive. They're going to get the healing back from Nami, and it should work out to about null.
Yeah. Of course, you know, with a double interchanger lane, you take these trades and then you go, oh, well, actually, you know, in 10 seconds we're going to be fine. But it does mean that they're going to have to play, you know, a little bit back until that W cooldown gets them all topped up. But 48 seconds now into the Dragon, and people are still duking it out in the top side. I'm curious to see if these junglers want to make a fast contest for this next objective.
That could have been a really opportune moment there for Pure Llama. I'd really like to see PJ just walk down to the bottom side of the map right now, but instead he's trying to look for like almost a solo kill pressure onto the top turret here, and I think there's room for him to do it. Godex Anime just chilling out in the wings. There's the potential for the slow right there onto Guilty. Has to use the flash and does do it. And that is going to be flash burned out of the Xerath right there. None of the CC is able to land onto Guilty. Engage in the bot side, but here we go. Same story once again. Erebus has the W available, and they're going to start chunking back the other way. Oh, and the ulti there, the cuddling is not going to connect at all. Just snuggle with a couple of those minions, and that is going to be more cooldowns burnt there for AWE, and they are not in a good position to try and stance for this dragon that is spawning.
Yeah, fantastic movement from Godex Anime. Gets not only the flash, but also the ghost from Guilty, which gives them this space to really like play around what they want to do. It looks like they're going to opt instead to allow Godex Anime to continue to farm up rather than play for that dragon. But you can see how much space this buys them.
Here it is.
Between the play in mid and in jungle, they now have the priority, but I say that.
They found Kog'Maw. That's the flash getting burnt out, and that is a low HP 80 carry to try and bring to this fight. And now the rotation that was initially very good from PJ Salt is now going to get matched. A little bit of trouble in this bot lane right now. Total Trash has to use the spell shield to deal with that E from Pure Llama. He's just going to not throw it. And now there's 5 people in this bot side from AWE, and I don't think that Wash is aware of it as they're going to try and start up this dragon. They do find an engage right there onto Pure Llama, who does have the ult available. He's going to pop it right now. PJ's in the back line, trying to cause some problems, but he's going to be the first one to go down, and now Guilty bombing in from the backline, but Pure Llama is so hard to kill, but they can take him down, and Erebus is absent on the scene. They're going to try and get this Kog'Maw in, but I think it's going to be a little bit too late, but there are low health bars. Is this going to be enough for Wash to try and turn this one? Right now, Godex Anime is at the focus. Now, can Erebus turn? Amid is flashing in onto Wednesday. Stun comes through, but Amid goes down. Can Erebus turn this? It's low HP on the Dragon, low health bars on AWE. Is there any kind of risk right now as they are going to take down that dragon? No questions asked. Point number 2 to AWE, and the bloodbath is ended.
Yeah, I cannot believe that AWE walks away with a victory in that fight, but Erebus was unable to make it to that play. So it's a 5v4, and despite the unfortunate early game for AWE, particularly towards that bottom side, they are able to turn it around. Pure Llama just not quite tanky enough in order to take the combined might of 5 members. They are going to go ahead and summon this Rift Herald here, which will be some gold going back to Total Trash, but not nearly as much as you would hope to get with that first one.
Yeah, and they really need to, AWE, they need to turn their focus to how can we be proactive now, because this is the first time that they've had even footing in a long time, and they are the composition that needs to be ahead right now. So it's going to be really crucial for them to start looking for opportunities. How can we fell these towers? How can we try and get some plates? Obviously, those plates are about to tick down. How can we set ourselves up for Dragon number 3? Because if they decide to just idle and feel comfortable with this lead that they have right now, it's going to quickly diminish just through the power of the items that come through. And hold on, Trollsing You is on the right page, PJ. Having to walk out of there.
And Trollsing You has looked so incredibly comfortable in this matchup in the top side. You can tell this is a well-practiced Aatrox who really knows how to land those combos, and it's starting to pay dividends. Up about 30 CS already, forcing the TP out once again from PJ Salt. So really trying to pull as much pressure as they can.
Yeah, and I want to say, interesting adaptation. Like I said, we've seen this matchup several times already. Both leagues, FOF this season has been riddled with Aatrox Malphite. It's kind of hilarious, honestly. I don't think we've seen a single Aatrox start Black Cleaver. Now, I am not well versed in top lane champions nor top lane itemization, but that is working at the moment, and it's looking really good for Trolls U because what normally happens is that Malphite at this point gets to just sit in front of the Aatrox, and he's not looking as comfortable right now because as that strip comes through, it's causing a lot of extra damage for Trolls U. So, interesting adaptation. I don't know if that was planned ahead of the game, but I'm liking it.
Yeah, for sure. You always want to adapt the items that you build into the matchup, and I think that AWE has correctly identified that they have this opportunity to go for a split push if they want
play
to.
bot. Play bot. Here comes Big Engage right now. Flash is having to get burned out of the Nami of a Riri, but hold on. Total Trash trying to find create. Play onto the backline. Hold on. Look at the damage from Guilty out of nowhere, and there's the Paranoia onto the Lulu, and now it is just retreat mode. Trying to get away. Pure Llama, the only survivor, is going to get caught by the bubble, but can he turn this? Kill gets traded back for Erebus thanks to the passive, and barely able to survive right there. Pure Llama's going to take the damage from Guilty. Good sidestep, but flash forward from Guilty. Doesn't find the E, and the Swain is able to waltz out alive.
AWE turning fights left and right. That looked like a slam dunk gank for GodX Anime. You've got a perfect angle onto the enemy team. You've got a Lulu steroid on the Kog'Maw. This should be an easy cleanup. Pure Llama's first to make it to the play, but again, Guilty on the signature Xerath just does so much damage from such a far range. It felt to me like Wash wasn't expecting that extra damage, and they ended up getting caught and traded back on.
Yeah, and this is what AWE, like you say, this is what they need to be doing. They're continuing to look for those, but that was an opportunity that was initiated by Wash. They had the player advantage, they had the engage, and it was some smooth movement from the bot lane of AWE that kept them alive and got them out. And that is not proactivity per se, that is reactivity, and you know what, it's working for them. Don't discredit it, you know, don't take anything away, but they need to be on top of this stuff right now, and it's not showing at the moment as we do see 5 people starting to pile towards this Rift Herald. Big chunk onto Erebus right there. He's not going to be able to get towards this, so it is 3v5 in the pit. There is a dash out available from Malphite, but he doesn't want to burn it if he doesn't have to. Getting hooked in, he has to use that unstoppable force to get out of there alive, and now GodX Anime's taking a lot of damage too. He's chunked out very low, and you know what? There's proactivity at its finest. They brought 5 there. They know what they wanted, and now they're going to make this rotation towards that Dragon number 3.
Yeah, and they can keep the pressure on. Again, Guilty continuing to do damage, actually just picks up Erebus.
Yeah, immediately deleted. There was no chance for that Kog'Maw to stay alive right there, and now there's going to be a push underneath this turret. They're going to try and make this rotation off of the first mid turret, going to go down, and they're going to have room to move this towards the Dragon because once again, Erebus is going to be absent.
Great pull from Pure Llama, but AWE has just looked so good at capitalizing on the mistakes. Now, this is an opportunity to try and bring something back. They have not spent their gold yet. AWE is in a point of weakness, so if you can find the correct fight, you might be able to make this happen. However, with Erebus off the map, they're going to decide not to. Wash is going to take the L, and Soul Point picked up for AWE.
And this is the pressure they need because now every 5 minutes they can force Wash to walk down because it mitigates a lot of their potential lead if there's a soul that goes over already. There's a big gold lead, 4K, plus the extra dragons that can push it up to 5 or 6 pretty comfortably. Once the soul comes through, stuff starts to get gross. So now Wash is playing on a very fine line, and they have to walk that line for a while. If they can, they're going to reach that point where Kog'Maw's disgusting. They're going to get Swain to a really gross point in the game. Malphite's going to be basically unkillable, but they have to make it there. And right now at 18 minutes, AWE has swung this game back into their direction.
Yeah, and I mean, my eyes in this game are on Pure Llama. He's looked so good in the early stages of this game, sitting 3-1-3, up 40 CS over his lane opponent, has been absolutely crushing it, not just in this league, but also looking quite good in the Mythic League now. This game is on his shoulders. If he's able to convert this lead and find the correct targets, get on top of Guilty and Amid, there's a chance for them to bring it back. But as you say, this early game tempo lead that AWE has garnered for themselves is really, really powerful.
In this top lane matchup right now, it feels like it's being fueled by hatred, and that's about it. Neither of them is getting any damage on each other, but they're fighting constantly. And I love how often it's just big Aatrox trying to hit the Malphite. There's no damage coming through. But Malphite can't trade back because Aatrox just heals it all. It's just these two getting like, all right, listen, I'm enough, no more of this trading nonsense. And then it just happens again. It's a pretty continual loop in that top lane.
Top laners, we gotta take what we can get, right? Like, there's only one way to make it to the top of the damage graph.
Yes.
For Jeff's stats for the FOF Connect. And as top laners, you don't get involved in team fights, so you just gotta keep slapping each other, with the noodles over here. But look at this. Already, AWE calling the 20-minute Baron Rush.
This is curious. Okay, so there's no way that Wash knows what's going on right now. They have no vision control. AWE does decide to peel off. Okay, they're taking a bit too much damage. Obviously, Baron's really hard to take at this point in the game, especially when you've only got one item across your carries. But I like it. We're talking about proactivity. It's almost like they know what's going on. They're looking for plays like that. It's going to put them basically on no delay. Doesn't hurt too badly. But this is a bigger window for Erebus to just sit here and CS, try and catch up, try and get those items through. And I think if we're looking at one more item finished up for Erebus and maybe half an item or so coming through for Wednesday, that Cog Lulu, oh boy, it does damage.
Yeah. So still definitely anyone's game, despite the about 4,000 gold difference that separates these two teams. And, I think that Wash here is sort of... I would like to see them sort of retake control of the proactivity in this game. I think that their attempts with GodX Anime trying to get things done, particularly on mid lane into Guilty, and as well, like trying to get stuff done bot side, looked fantastic in the early stages. Sometimes, there was slight misexecution, but the spirit was there and they were getting things done. Now, it feels to me like they know that they're on the back foot, and they're not as willing to make big plays with the Malphite-Jarvan combo, and I think that they're going to need to do that in order to even up this gold lead.
Yeah, and it's a play that kind of, that ship has kind of sailed for me, because you're minute 30 off of the Dragon. You want to make sure that you have all your cooldowns available for that. You want to make sure that you're not burning flashes, not burning anything like that. So it either needs to be a play that Wash is able to generate, or it needs to be delayed, I feel. And the problem is that AWE's vision control this game has been immaculate. I say this game, really for most of the season. They have been on top of the vision game, especially from ahead, and they're able to take away a lot of Wash's opportunities and keep their side laners really, really safe. So there hasn't been those options to go into the side lanes. And like you said, Wash is forcing them less, but I say that, here comes the force right now onto Oriri. Erebus is on the side right now. It is a 3v4 in the mid lane right now. Wash is trying to bring their 5th member in. Oriri's going to be the first to fall, but Wednesday's taken very low. Erebus has to try and flash out of there right now. Guilty sniping down from a long range, and now it is Erebus in the 2v1. It is just the Malphite left alive, getting chased down by the Aatrox, who has cleaned house, and that is going to be the ace picked up for AWE.
Yeah, what a phenomenal play from AWE. Again, we were talking about that proactivity, but you have to be incredibly careful about when you take those fights. Let's watch this back here. PJ Salt feels like he's got a moment. He's got the ward control. He sees Oriri and Amid stacked up. Erebus is almost within range to try and make something happen here. So I think they can go for it. Huge damage onto the Enchanter to kick things off. But then Erebus is so stuck here. Look at how long it takes for him to hit a meaningful target. AWE Guilty able to join the fight as well and completely chunks out the Kog'Maw. And from that point on, you have no damage. So, again, I appreciate the gumption, the action. You have these go buttons that you want to use, but you just have to pick the right moment. This means a Baron is on the table for AWE.
And the split focus was hurting them a little bit too, because X and Wednesday and Erebus were all looking at Lucian there, and none of them were able to find him. And like you say, it just took forever for Wash to get onto the same fight there. And I think there was definitely an option for that one to go well, but the execution just was not there from Wash. I don't know if they really are starting to feel nervous on this back foot. We know historically they can pull themselves out of these holes, but that was not the play they needed, and I don't know if it's whether that they're missing something out of that support role that Bill provides, or whatever it might be, but they don't look comfortable in these mid-game team fights, and now what needed to be something that Wash had control over, now they are racing to get here in time. It is 5k, 4k, disappearing Godix Anime for the miracle steal, but he cannot find it, and I feel like that is kind of putting the final period in the book here. AWE sitting with one hand on the victory.
Yeah, I mean, they've just looked so good at collapsing and continuing to build this lead up to almost 10,000 gold now. There will be a slight reprieve here as they do have to, you know, actually spend their money after winning the team fight, taking the Baron, and taking the Dragon. You gotta go, you know, reset, but as soon as those timers come back, look, all members immediately charging down the mid lane. They want to keep the pressure up.
Yep, no, and they got a limited time on that Baron buff, so they might as well go for it. World Ender getting popped right there. Trollsing trying to make this dive happen. There's so much trouble from across the map there. AWE sentencing Pure Llama back to the fountain there. And now with a 4v5 and Baron buff in their pocket, they're going to try and force down mid lane.
Yeah, and look at how oppressive the Xerath can be. This is exactly the position you want to be. Got the Baron buff, you outrange your lane opponents, you took care of the beefy guy who, like, can kind of threaten you. This is AWE's prime time, and they are going to smash
PJ.
Towers.
PJ's in a really good spot there. Doesn't have the flash available, so he can't force this. His hold on Erebus has been caught out! He's gonna fall! And that is the last hope for Wash getting taken away as AWE runs through into the base, onto this mid inhibitor, and is just a minion wave away from taking the Nexus.
Yeah, Pure Llama is up and available, but he does not have the Swain ultimate, so 3 members trying to do their best to defend against this singular cannon. Hook's gonna land.
They barely missed the engages. There it is from PJ Sol trying to get onto the backline. Godix Anime is going to go down before Total Trash is threatened. And now it is a 2 versus 5 right now. 8 seconds on the bot lane of Wash, but can they hold the wave for that long? I'm not feeling very positive. Total Trash nearly falling to that Nexus turret right now as the Kog'Maw and the Lulu are back on the map. Total Trash trying to make his way out of here. Not feeling comfortable as now Erebus going for a hero play. Having a kite around the damage sources, but there's not going to be any engage available. PJ Salt already with that ultimate on cooldown. They're just going to chase AWE out of their base to win another day.
Yeah, but at what cost? AWE is this team that has that veteran status. They know exactly how to take a lead and run with it. That Baron play ended up taking all the way to the last limit of the Nexus and expanded that gold lead up to 13,000. When this next fight happens, they're going to be up at least an item and a half on all of their characters, and it's up to Team Wash to somehow find the miracle that brings them back.
All right, so here's what you got to do right now, and it's really risky, but you have to find a pocket. And obviously it's really hard because you don't have any Nexus turrets, so if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but you can't win the 5v5 anyway. So find a vision pocket, stuff everyone somewhere, catch O'Reilly or somebody out of position, get that initial pick, and then just try and chase them to your Nexus, because the 5v5 that they're currently waiting on does not favor them at all, and they need to try and go into this deep desperation mode. When you're down this much gold, you cannot play by the rules. You need to try and create some kind of advantage, and Wash doesn't feel comfortable moving into their own jungle, doesn't feel comfortable walking out of their base, and it's just going to hand everything over to AWE. They're going to be able to win this the way they want to.
Yeah, and I mean, but they're not getting the option to, right? As you mentioned earlier, look at AWE's immaculate vision control. They already had the ward smack dab in the center of the lane, so they knew if they were going to go for the side lane push. So now they have to deal with the 5v5 fight.
Can Erebus do it? He's sitting on 2 items right now. Godix Anime has already been partially chunked out. Paranoia is available to get this one started. Guilty, known as the sniper. He's going to be dotting the damage onto Wash. Godix Anime has to be looking for it right now. There's the calling coming through. It's going to take down the Jarvan before he has a chance to even stand up to AWE. Kog'Maw already down. Pure Llama trying to make a miracle play, though, is on top of a mid. He's going to get that first kill picked up. Good flash to get out of the Xerath damage, dodging out of everything. Pure Llama, what a display of mechanical skill, but he cannot bring this game back for Wash, and that is going to be AWE picking up win number 7.
I have to say, Escape, AWE looked so decisive in the later stages of this game, and I think that this gives them, hopefully, the confidence moving forward to really play a part moving into playoffs. They looked so much better tonight, I think, than what I've seen in the past. They looked smart and decisive, and they played around the characters that they had so well, making full use of the Nocturne ultimates to burn summoners away from the Kog'Maw time and time again, and then once again playing towards Guilty Xerath, that incredible siege character that once a lead starts, it becomes so difficult to play against this team.
They know how to play with it. Xerath is such a weird pick, right? Like, where does that come from? But it comes from Guilty's pockets, and they are delivering nonstop. I want to give a huge highlight to Trolling You for surviving that laning phase, which I'm going to say no one else has been able to do so far this season into the Malphite. And thriving with it, turning it into a huge team fight win in the mid game, which really put AWE ahead. And just it was a roll from that point forward. That being said, AWE looking fantastic. We're going to move on to an interview with them, so don't go anywhere.
Hello, Chris Edgeworth here for our second interview tonight. No bumps so far, so good. And we are joined this time by Trollsing You of Art of War Esports. How are you feeling after the win?
Doing good. It was a pretty hard fought game, and just glad we came away with the W. And yeah, they were a fun team to play against.
Let's start at the top then with this draft. The things that I found the most interesting were actually on the opposite side of the map from you, which was this Cog Lulu versus Lucian Nami matchup, especially since Erebus had pulled out the Ghost, which is pretty. It's both a safety valve, get out of jail, you can just run away, but it can like make Kog'Maw really aggressive too, especially with the lethal tempo. So I thought it was really interesting. And then the other side of the map for you, you had this Aatrox Malphite matchup that we've seen time and again. I'll ask you about how that lane went for you in a moment. But then, of course, the mid lane matchups, Swain Jarvan versus Xerath Nocturne. I just felt like all over the place there was something interesting to talk about. What were your folks' thoughts putting together this draft and what you ended up against?
So we had a couple of really good comfort picks. I like Aatrox, and obviously Guilty really likes the Xerath, and we were kind of laughing before the game because Guilty's really only played Xerath into Swain. So we kind of had in our minds how that was going to go, and our whole thought process with the draft was, we're going to kill them early, and we just got to steamroll the game. Obviously that didn't happen, and Guilty waited until he was down 2 deaths to tell us that he actually had 300 ping, so that was really nice of him. And like I said, the Aatrox is just a super comfort pick for me. And we were a little worried about the Cog Lulu because obviously eventually it just gets to the point where we're not going to be able to shut that down. So we drafted a pretty aggressive bot lane. And then after the game, we'd kind of talked a little bit about like some of the mistakes we had with our draft. And yeah, we definitely should have come out ahead earlier than we did. But I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I think they had a couple misplays with positioning, and we got some picks, and we got to start fights in ways that we really shouldn't have. So ultimately, I think we picked a good draft theoretically, and then we played it poorly to begin with. But thankfully, we were able to come out with the win in the end.
Let's step into your neck of the woods on the Rift. Talk to me a little bit, if you would, about what it was like for you in this early game matchup, going down early, but then coming right back. I mean, you didn't die, but the pressure was not in your favor in that early game. And just talk to me a little bit about your team, or about yourself rather, playing around this pressure where the whole team was sort of fumbling the ball at the beginning.
Yeah, so yeah, it was our whole team. Like there was times where I would misplay. There was at least one time I can think of that I should have been able to solo kill my opponent. But there's just mistakes all around. And as far as like what we were actually playing in the top lane, I was just happy with the CS lead that I got, aside from messing up on a couple kills. But yeah, so I don't have too much else to say about that.
Well, one thing I can point out is that even in a game where there was a Kog'Maw in it, you ended up as the second most damage in the game with 20 grand. You were just 2k behind Guilty, who had 22 grand. So you're obviously dealing some damage. Malphite's a meaty boy, so he can take some hits, but it is interesting to see just how much damage you're able to pump out there. So let's talk about the team as a whole then, because of course when you opt into things like Lucian Nami with Ignite, you're kind of expecting to be on the 6-0 side of the Rift, and it did not look that way for you folks. You were in the early deficit overall. Talk to me, if you would, about comms and stuff, as you folks were able to pull this back, and then you were able to walk it into a steady win after a certain point.
Yeah, there's one time where, so I'd actually misplayed and TP top. There's like 40 something seconds to dragon, I believe. And then, so I had to walk all the way down to the dragon. And as we were getting set up for the fight, we were trying to talk about like who we were actually going to be picking out. And we had blown a flash on the Kog'Maw early, and we were thinking, I believe we were talking about him having to probably back. So then it was like, pick out the Swain, pick out the Swain. And probably 5 seconds after we started saying that, Guilty landed a stun on him. So it's like, okay, if we start the fight like this, we just kind of win. Because even if the Malphite goes in, at that point, he didn't have any items. He was down like 40 or 50 CS. And then the Kog'Maw was going to be late to the fight. So Jarvan and Malphite, they're not going to have the damage necessary to actually carry it out. So we were able to pick out fights like we wanted to, and then it was, like I said, it was just some misplays on their part, I think, that kind of let us get the victory here.
Right on. Well, Art of War Esports ends up with the dub. Final thoughts for you, Trollsing you, before we leave. Anything you'd like to say while you're on the desk? Any shoutouts, any banter?
Please don't ban Aatrox. Other than that, yeah.
Right on. All right, well, folks, second game is in the books. We have 2 more coming at you. We'll be back after a medium-sized break, probably, hopefully short. But we'll be back with Game 3 soon enough. Don't go too far.
Cause you